robot already.
Yes. I'm Tom, by the way.
Nick,
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Tom.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to your I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I robot.
All good? I'm Tom.
Nick,
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Tom.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to your I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I robot.
All good? I'm Tom.
Nick,
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Tom.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to your I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I robot.
All good? I'm Tom.
Nick,
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Tom.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to your I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I robot.
All good? I'm Tom.
Nick,
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Tom.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to your I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I robot.
All good? I'm Tom.
Nick,
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Tom.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to your I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I robot.
All good? I'm Tom.
Nick,
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Tom.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to your I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I robot.
All good? I'm Tom.
Nick,
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Tom.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to your I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I robot.
All good? I'm Tom.
Nick,
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Tom.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to your I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I robot.
All good? I'm Tom.
Nick,
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Tom.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to your I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I robot.
All good? I'm Tom.
Nick,
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Tom.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to your I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I robot.
All good? I'm Tom.
Nick,
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Tom.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to your I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I robot.
All good? I'm Tom.
Nick,
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you,
I'm
Tom.
looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to your I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I robot.
All good? I'm Tom.
Nick,
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Tom.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to your I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I robot.
All good? I'm Tom.
Nick,
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you,
I'm
Tom.
looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to your I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I robot.
All good? I'm Tom.
Nick,
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Tom.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to your I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I robot.
All good? I'm Tyler.
Nick.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Tom.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to it. I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next
There
time.
you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I will.
All good? I'm Tyler.
Nick.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Tom.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to it. I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I will.
All good? I'm Tyler.
Nick.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Tom.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to it. I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I will.
All good? I'm Tyler.
Nick.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Tom.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to it. I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I will.
All good? I'm Tyler.
Nick.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Tom.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to it. I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I will.
All good? I'm Tyler.
Nick.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Tom.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to it. I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I will.
All good? I'm Tyler.
Nick.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Tom.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to it. I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I will.
All good? I'm Tyler.
Nick.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Tom.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to it. I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I will.
All good? I'm Tyler.
Nick.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Tom.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to it. I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I will.
All good? I'm Tyler.
Nick.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Tom.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to it. I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I will.
All good? I'm Tyler.
Nick.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Tom.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to it. I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I will.
All good? I'm Tyler.
Nick.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Tom.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to it. I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I will.
All good? I'm Tyler.
Nick.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Tom.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to it. I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I will.
All good? I'm Tyler.
Nick.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Tom.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to it. I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I will.
All good? I'm Tyler.
Nick.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Tom.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to it. I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I will.
All good? I'm Tyler.
Nick.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Tom.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to it. I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I will.
All good? I'm Tyler. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, John.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to it. I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I wrote.
All good? I'm Tom.
Nick.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, John.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to it. I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I wrote.
All good? I'm Tom.
Nick.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, John.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to it. I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I wrote.
All good? I'm Tom.
Nick.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, John.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to it. I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I wrote.
All good? I'm Tom.
Nick.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, John.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to it. I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I wrote.
All good? I'm Tom.
Nick.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, John.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to it. I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I wrote.
All good? I'm Tom.
Nick.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, John.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to it. I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I wrote.
All good? I'm Tom.
Nick.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, John.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to it. I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I wrote.
All good? I'm Tom.
Nick.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, John.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to it. I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I wrote.
All good? I'm Tom.
Nick.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, John.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to it. I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I wrote.
All good? I'm Tom.
Nick.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, John.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to it. I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I wrote.
All good? I'm Tom.
Nick.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, John.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to it. I hope I haven't screwed it up.
You'll be fine. It's going to be a good time no matter what.
I hope so.
If not, you'll have a very interesting talk the next time.
There you go. And hopefully the next time.
And the next time after that.
So, like I wrote.
All good? I'm Tom.
Nick.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, John.
I'm looking forward to your talk.
Likewise, I'm looking
slide decks. So like I could just send you URLs. Would that be easier?
Oh, so you need to go over to this window, which is on the left, and then you can use those.
Here, I'll just. Do you just want me to Slack you those URLs? Might be easier for the recording.
Yeah, sure. Oh, and also, Graham, the camera's right here. Feel free to adjust if need be. And also, I only have one power adapter, so you might have to swap between laptop and phone. And there might be other people who have power adapters around here.
Is it CF Guest? Is the Wi-Fi?
Nope, I have no idea what the Wi-Fi is.
Which phone is that?
This is a USB-C.
I leave things to chance.
Oh, and Anthony's saying that he can hear me. So that's a good sign that the mic was working.
Hey, Anthony.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the latest Toronto Mac Admins. I'm going to let Graham go get set up, and then I'll wait for him to go to the next slide, because I don't know what I'm saying at all. I'm just standing up here right now. So yeah, we're going to go through a few things. These are a bit backwards, but let's go to the next one. So we want to thank Fleet for all the food. They are great. I had a blurb that I don't remember what it is, and it might be in the notes there. But Fleet is an MDM. It's an open source, but also they have a pay-for version. They have an MDM. They are built around OS Query. They do cool stuff, you know, all that stuff. Fleet is cool. Also, next slide. Jamf also helped provide our pizza food, pizza money. So hooray for Jamf. And Nason is here. Is he in the room? I think he went from... Okay. Maybe at some point he'll stand up and say something about Jamf, but in the meantime, let's go forward. Jamf are great. We have a code of conduct that is not on our website anymore because we don't have a website. I don't know where it is, but it's basically don't be an asshole. If someone is being an asshole, let us know. And the people who let know, the organizers, want to raise your hands? Those people.
It's mainly for the Slack, and if you don't know what Slack is, and just come and speak to one of us.
Also, we only have the one mic, which is for the recording. So hopefully whoever's up here will speak loudly for the people at the back. And also, people up here repeat what people say so that they can hear on the recording what the questions were. We do not have a catch box. We're not as cool as Penn State.
Yet.
Next slide. One of our favorite things to do is to ask who's hiring. And one of them is, Graham, next slide, Thumbtack.
Yay!
We're hiring an IT support engineer. The job posting is actually down now because we had way too many people apply. But if you are interested, talk to myself or talk to Twan over there, who is apparently recording me. I don't know why.
Show your boss.
Hi, Chris. Also, if you're watching there, hi, Chris. Yeah, Thumbtack's awesome. We're hiring right now. We're hiring someone local in Toronto specifically, so you're only fighting against Torontonians and not everyone in North America. Anyone else hiring? Anyone else looking?
CGI always has a big career section, ranging from like basically everything. If there's ever anything that anyone sees there, reach out to me. And if you get my CGI email, that we can do a referral type of thing for people. And that helps you get to the top of the HR list.
Awesome. Anyone else? Cool. All right. In addition to that, we want a Toronto logo. We want to make stickers. Anyone have skills? Because I don't have design skills. So if you do, let us know. Because we want a cool logo. We want to do stickers and maybe shirts so that we can fundraise for pizza and we don't have to necessarily get corporate sponsorship, that kind of stuff. So if that's something you're interested in, let one of us know. And then we've got, I think the next one is 2 speakers. One is Tom, who's going to be talking about federated managed Apple IDs. Might also be talking about Mac Admins Foundation talk.
Yes,
yep.
correct. If
Also
I can get on the
talking-
Wi-Fi.
Sorry?
If I can get on the Wi-Fi.
If he can get on the Wi-Fi, he will talk
Google
about...
Slides.
And then also we've got Nick, who is going to be talking about security stuff. What exactly, I don't remember. Unraveling the threat. So that'll be good. Who wants to go first?
Rochambeau?
Yeah.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Oh!
Do I go or do you go?
Well, you choose.
Okay, I'll go.
All right. Nick's coming up. Woo!
You should always do it like this. Like, that was fun. Yeah, my heart's racing. I don't know if it was the pizza or. Hello.
And you've got the slide screen.
I have.
So,
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Please go next.
You'll get there. I think you have to click on it first. There we
Oh.
go.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Nice to see you all. My name's Nick. The topic is different than what I initially said because I'm very indecisive and I changed my mind last second. I'm sorry. So, I'm also not creative. This took me like a good 2 weeks to think of the title. So, don't judge me. I know it's bad. So, I'm going to talk about how phishing can turn into more, and I'm going to talk about how you can respond to that more. Yes.
Just one thing, your back's to the camera.
Oh, shoot,
So
sorry.
you might, maybe the other side of the screen.
My apologies. All right. You can go next slide when you have a sec. Okay, so yeah, like I said, I'm Nicholas Mercurio, pseudo potato for those that know me by my Slack name. I'm a senior manager of information security. I am only a Mac admin when I have to be, not full time. Take that as you will. I talk about security a lot. I find identity and access management stuff cool. I also teach and lecture at Humber College about application security, and I teach at a online boot camp about everything security related. So it's fun, I think. Some people may disagree, and my wife probably disagrees, but that's okay. And yeah, everything I'm saying is not a reflection of my employer. Boilerplate stuff. All right, next slide, please. So, we talk about phishing. I'm sure everybody has this reaction. You know, it's like what's the saying? Beating a dead fish. You know, you can inform your users about clicking on phishing links as much as you want, but you know, Bob in finance is going to click on that $1,000 reward that he won. You know, damn Bob in finance, but you know, he's going to click on it anyway. So, you know, there's ways that we can prevent this, but let's just have that moral battle every time we talk to our end users. So that's kind of how I'm my segue into what I'm going to talk about. Next slide, please. So I'm going to talk about a cool malware called Darkgate. I googled Darkgate, and that was the first thing that came up, and I thought that was super cool. I don't know what it's like related to, but it had a MacBook, and that zombie skull thing in the background looks cool. It's definitely not the logo of the malware, but I thought it was cool. So even if it's unrelated, it's all good. So I assume we all know what malware is, so I'm not gonna talk about what that is. But specifically, the Darkgate malware campaign, it's a phishing campaign specifically targeted towards direct messaging services. So Skype, Slack, Teams, Discord, whatever direct messaging service you use, this malware there's this campaign has historically been targeted towards those mediums. You see it over email a bit, but not so much. Essentially, it's a VBA script that is disguised to be a PDF file. So we're going to look a bit on how that works. And this is primarily a Windows-based malware. I know, boo, but I think it's interesting to talk about anyway. And I think we all know there's malware specific to Mac OS, so the teachings we're going to take from this is going to be relevant. Yeah, next slide, please. So essentially, what this malware does, I'm going to go over the specifics and the details and the exciting stuff. But it's essentially a remote control tool. It reaches out to a whole bunch of different remote command centers, downloads malicious files, malicious executables, tries to run them, do some scary stuff, do some crazy things. And if you look at the history of this started out to be a crypto miner. So it would download tools to mine for Bitcoin on your company computer. But it's been shown to actually attempt to install ransomware. It's the newest variant of this. And this is still very widely, you do see it in the wild quite often now. So it's not like this was something that is no longer happening. It's still being actively exploited in a day-to-day basis. And unfortunately, the first line of defense is your end users, and as you know, we can't always trust those folks. Yeah, next slide, please. For those of you that are familiar with the MITRE ATT&CK framework, here are some of the threats, tactics, and procedures that this malware tries to take advantage of. If you're not familiar with the MITRE ATT&CK framework, it's an awesome framework created by the folks at MITRE that gets you in the mindset of an adversary or an attacker and explains to you some tactics that they may use to take advantage of your system, of your infrastructure, so that you can get your mind in the mindset of an attacker to eventually go and protect against them, right? A good offense is how's the saying? A good offense is a good defense? I don't know. Whatever that saying is, that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, next. Okay, so this is essentially the life cycle of what you see. So I just put phishing mail just to be general there, but like I said, we're noticing it's more in direct messaging services. It contains a phishing link or something to download a file. Once the file is on the computer, it tries to download the auto IT3 executable, which again, Windows specific, boo, I'm sorry. It downloads the auto IT3 executable, which conveniently doesn't need admin rights to execute, of course, because why would it? It uses a specific script file. It's an AU3 file. The auto IT tool has its own scripting library, and that AU3 file essentially contains all the information. To make it more confusing here, you'll typically see this file encrypted, just to make it less obvious as to what's happening. That AU3 file will inject shellcode. If you're not familiar with shellcode, don't worry about it. And that will inject a loader into your computer and do bad stuff. So essentially, as you can see by this diagram, it's a bunch of reaching out, downloading, reaching out, downloading, reaching out, and downloading. Yes. Next. Okay, so I want to make this relevant. I know there's not a lot of security people. I mean, security is everything. I feel like, we're in IT, we're in security, we're in security, we're in IT, one big happy family. So I'm going to talk about some best practices from somebody that primarily works in the security world, not necessarily the IT world. Alerting. Alerting's fun, alerting's good, and alerting is neat. So set up alerting. So as an example, we have alerting. Here's a sample Jira ticket. We have an automated ticket from our EDR vendor. I'm not sponsored, so I should have blurred out the names, but you know, it's okay. Hopefully they send me some money for talking about them. You get an alert. Obviously the criticality, probably not all that correct, but in any case, we have an alert. And now, hopefully you have a security team that's gonna go and triage these. If you're a small company, maybe you are your security team. And you know, best practice, you want to set up some guidelines. So you should react to certain incidents, certain events, certain alerts based on certain factors. So an example. So next slide. And you know, if you want to put yourself in the mindset of an end user, you know, if something doesn't work the first time and you know you want to click the button's not doing something, click next. You know, just do it a million times and get a million alerts. Press next one more time. Yeah, so, you know, best practice, filter through the noise, or try your best to filter through the noise. Slide. Okay, so now, depending on how your company is structured, if you have a dedicated security team, that may be the extent that you work on, right? You get an alert, you get some sort of notification from your EDR tool, your MDM, whatever, and then you may hand it off to your security team. So you may not be familiar with what happens next, how the investigation goes forward. So that's kind of what I want to talk about today, is more the investigation, more the points after you forward it off to your security team. Like I said, if you work at a small company, maybe you do both. But if you don't, hopefully what I'm going to talk about is interesting. Hopefully. I think it's interesting. All right, so this is what the malware tries to look like. They use just the perfect amount of spacing to make it seem like it's two separate files. But depending on what tool you use, you can tell you have your metadata, your statistics about the file is only appearing on one line, you're not getting it on the second line. So that's kind of a telltale way to say, okay, this is two separate files. But typically the way that this campaign happens, when the malware is actually generated, you're able to specify what you want the file to be called, and it'll put in just the perfect amount of spaces in between to make it seem like it's two separate files. There's a bunch of ways you can kind of tell. You know, if you're in a Mac environment, even a simple ls will kind of show it as one file in the terminal. So there's a multitude of ways that you can kind of go about seeing that. But this is a telltale sign, and a sign that you should see, okay, this is not a PDF, this is something else. So next step, I wanted to look at this kind of from more of a malware analysis perspective. I wanted to get into the details, like how is this actually working. If you're not familiar with coding, scripting, don't worry about it, I'm not either. So this essentially is what the malware has. None of this makes sense to me, and none of it makes sense to anybody, because it shouldn't make sense to anybody. This is using a tactic known as, I can never pronounce the word, obfuscation. So it's the act of intentionally making things look scary, making things look difficult to read, and making it very, very, very difficult to read. You know, I don't think this one is all that well done, because you can kind of tell quite easily what it's trying to do. You can see that we have some replace commands in there that essentially is replacing the mumbo jumbo with certain other characters. And I'm not going to go through it. I have a breakdown of what it actually shows later on. But another cool tactic that I found that this malware had is, you can see it has a whole bunch of bytecode at the bottom. So the 0x01, it's all very meaningless. But this might be a way for somebody that maybe isn't experienced to look through that and be like, oh, what is all this stuff doing? What is all this padding doing? This is a very common tactic that attackers will use to make your code seem much larger than what it actually is. I cut the screenshot off, but there's like 60 lines of that. So they use it to make the actual file size appear larger. Also, if you're using maybe a non-modern antivirus tool or EDR tool, this sometimes is thrown in there to throw off any signature-based detections. So if you're using, again, I'm not gonna name names, but if you're using a vendor that's not great, maybe they get hung up on that and not actually what's happening in there. So this is a common tactic that attackers will use. Anyways, from our EDR platform, we are noticing that we're seeing 2 calls being made from the script. We still don't know what the script's doing, but from our security platform, we're able to see that 2 calls are being made. So curl, which essentially is going to download a file. Yep.
Do you mean like it's showing that the infected machine is making that outbound call?
Yes, correct. Yeah, sorry, I should have specified. So the question was, is our tooling show that the infected machine is making these calls? And yes, so these 2 calls here, we were getting stats showing that curl to that endpoint and curl to that endpoint were being made from the infected machine. So curl, if you're not familiar with it, is essentially a command to download a file off of a website. So we saw 2 domains, onlysportsfitness.com and onlysportsfitness.com/mushkiruguzurda. They both now 404, and I kind of wanted to do a live walkthrough where I downloaded it and walked through it, but it's no longer there, so that's boring. But essentially we saw those 2. Still don't know what the script does, but we're seeing 2 malicious calls. Well, we don't know if it's malicious, but it looks kind of sketchy. So let's dive further. Okay, so the curl to the onlysportsfitness.com, we saw that it downloaded a file called ptup.exe. It's not very descriptive, but I was doing some investigation and I noticed that the executable that you need to download to install the AutoIT3 file is called setup.exe. So I'm thinking maybe they just renamed the file and just deleted some characters to make it look a bit more confusing. That's just a guess. But that's what the root domain was downloading. And we saw, I don't have a screenshot, but we saw that the script was also trying to run that file as well and trying to actually run what the executable is trying to do. So that's what that domain was downloading. If you want to go to the next slide. Oh, sorry. AutoIT. This is what I was talking about. This is not a malicious tool. Like this works. But you know, a lot of freeware can be used for good, but can be used for bad. And in this example, in the Darkgate malware, this is the freeware tool that's being used. Next. Okay. And so we tried we tried curling the next domain with the subdomain, and this was downloading this encrypted file in an AU3 format. So this was the file that would be decrypted to actually show the script for the AutoIT3 file. Yeah, hard to read, but you know, these attackers will use obfuscation to make it incredibly difficult, and you know, this is on purpose, right? Because if you have logging, you can see what's happening, and this will make it a lot more complicated to see what's happening. Next. Cool, and then here I just have a screenshot. So we threw in the hash for AutoIT3. It was being flagged as malicious. And you can just see here we have this is where we're actually downloading the files just to our malware analysis workstation, so we can see what's happening and kind of, you know, have some fun with it while we're being a superhero here. Yep. Next slide. Cool. So now let's kind of dig in a bit more into the actual code. Next slide. Okay, great. So up top is the obfuscated code. Does it make sense? So we actually ran through the commands and we tried to figure out what's happening here. So the first variable there, just on line 1, if you actually run that replace command, you're going to get the value of shell application. The next variable on line 2, you're going to get the value of CMD, and then the next variable on line 3, you're getting a long CMD prompt that essentially is making a bunch of directories. We're seeing that ptup naming convention that we saw for the executable, and we're essentially seeing that it's being run and it's attempting to download the AU3 file from the malicious websites. And then if you look at the obfuscated script on line 4 up top, you can see if you replace all the variables there with the ones up top, this Visual Basic script essentially is going to execute a shell command in CMD with that malicious line of code. Yep.
Where do you detonate this?
Where do you detonate this?
Yeah.
So when the file is downloaded on the, sorry, I should have specified that. When the file is downloaded on the infected machine, this script attempts to run automatically.
Also, it's just captured that.
So yeah, so I took a copy off of the like when we were investigating the incident, we took a copy of the file off the machine, or removed it off the machine, and can you go back 1 slide? Sorry, 2 slides. We essentially put it into here. This is our malware analysis workstation. So this is where we actually look at the file. If we want to execute it and run it and step through it, this is where we do it. But the script was intended to be run on the actual endpoint.
So you have like, you already have these burner computers. You run some analysis.
Yeah, we have some air-gapped computers that we do this stuff on.
I see.
Yeah. Yeah, spoiler alert, our EDR tool blocked this from doing anything on the impacted computer other than generate the alerts to us. But just walking through it because stuff's interesting to talk about. Cool, thank you. Yeah, so essentially this is going to run a shell application in CMD with that long malicious command line argument, I guess, parameter. Next, okay, so in order to actually look at that encoded AU3 file, there is an awesome open source tool called MyAUT2EXE. It will take an AU3 file and attempt to decrypt it or de-encode it, but like I said, if you want to just press next. Yeah, the link 404. So I wanted to do a cool walkthrough of seeing what's actually happening, but 404. So one more time. One more time. Boring, but it is what it is. I'm sure Adam didn't want me to run that on his computer anyway.
Good thing I don't have Windows.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, I didn't even think about that. That's true. Yeah, so I threw this on here. Trend Micro has an awesome list of all the different indicators of compromise and all of the known IPs, URLs, file names, etc. That have been known historically to be used with this malware campaign. So if you want to throw some of these into your EDR platform or whatever OS query, just to see if any of these files are on your device, Trend Micro has this awesome list. So if you just Google Trend Micro Darkgate malware, this list is consistently uploaded. So if you want to do some investigation on your existing fleet, this is a great way to start. Conclusion or recommendation. So like I said, half of this stuff maybe you don't do on a daily basis, which is totally understandable. But the whole point of IT and security got to work hand in hand. You can't have good IT without good security. You can't have good security without good IT. So it's a partnership. And just some conclusions and recommendations that I have from that. Just want to go to the next slide. So our tool, like I said, detected and contained before anything actually happened. So we had some great alerting. So you want to make sure you have alerting enabled, detection, maybe some auto remediation. Maybe your EDR tool has some sort of automations you can set up, or you know, this sounds weird. I've never used Jamf. Maybe Jamf has stuff that you can do. I don't know. Set something up to help you out. And you know, the attack vector may be through a trusted medium. Like we're used to phishing coming from emails or random SMS, but you know, one of the worst things I think Slack did was set up those Slack connects and let anybody do that. You know, Slack may have been a trusted platform before, but now, you know, not so much, right? Anybody can have a Slack connect feature enabled, depending if you have admin reviewing it or not. Maybe it's auto enabled. You know, Slack can't really be trusted anymore. You know, concept of zero trust. Application allow listing, you know, that's a pain in itself, but maybe that's something you need to consider if you're in a highly regulated or high security industry. Like I said, Auto IT version 3 runs without admin, so just allowing users not to be admins is probably not good enough. Have an EDR plan. You know, I have a lot of people that say, oh, what should I use for an antivirus? Like, what should I use for an MDM? What should I use for IAM? It doesn't really matter, right? When you talk about EDR, you wanna understand, how do you detect and remediate things on your endpoints? You know, is that whatever Jamf security thing's called? Is that CrowdStrike? Is that Sophos? Like, doesn't matter. How do you as a company want to approach this topic? How do you as a company want to make sure that your company's secure? Once you have all those decisions, once you have all those points, then you can spend the money. But before that, you want to make sure you're implementing a technology, implementing a concept before actually going vendor specific. And be friends with the security team, right? We're sometimes friendly folks. We might be boring or sometimes, you know, interested in weird stuff like I am, but you know, we're friendly folks most, like 90% of the time. So yeah, be friends with us. And that's it. My social medias, if you want to reach out. Otherwise, I use a community called Toronto Mac Admins, if you want to reach out to me there. I don't know why I didn't put my Slack username there, but I'm Pseudo Potato. And that's it. Appreciate it. Any questions?
Sure, I'll ask one.
Sure.
You referenced CrowdStrike a lot. Do you have any kind of preference to like that, or what was some of the other ones? Carbon Black was a big one before, like CrowdStrike.
So Carbon Black, I know when I was looking at it initially, had a minimum in terms of license counts. And when I joined, we didn't meet that, so it's kind of off the table for us. I like CrowdStrike because it's at, I wouldn't say 100% parity with Windows for Mac OS, but it has a lot of features that are available on Windows and Mac. Like Mac is not a dummied down version for CrowdStrike. We had Sophos back in the day, worked totally fine on PC, but it was just god awful for Mac. And usually, I think when Big Sur or Monterey came out, I think Sophos didn't support it for like 3 months, which is crazy. So wasn't a fan of Sophos. I don't know if it's changed since then, but yeah, I've been a fan of CrowdStrike just for the capabilities that it has, and you know, it's expensive, but does what we need it to do, and it's cross-platform. We're like a 50-50 Windows Mac shop, so it made sense for us.
I think if I could add a little more to that, they're about a day difference. Basically, usually a day or two behind new updates on Mac or on Windows. They're maybe half a day to a day.
For CrowdStrike?
CrowdStrike.
Yeah. It's
And
been about that.
on the major Linux platforms that they support, they're maybe about a week behind in supportability. And the other thing that they have is they've got reduced functionality mode. So if you patch today, you'll go into reduced functionality mode. Certain things won't work perfectly, and you'll know that you're in reduced functionality mode. But as soon as they've vetted it and they've sent out the updates, you're back up to full supportability. And yeah, very, very different than almost anything else costs out there. And I do have a question. What about, have you had any look at Sentinel-1?
I haven't. No, I've heard of it. I never actually looked into it. I heard it's pretty good. I think Sentinel-1, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's very common in like the MSP space. I think I see a lot of MSPs using it, but no, I haven't tried it. No. Are you a fan?
I would have loved to do CrowdStrike versus Sentinel-1.
Oh, okay.
Didn't get a chance to do
I
that.
see what you're saying. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't. I've heard mixed reviews. I haven't seen it or heard anything on the Mac side. I've heard mixed reviews on the PC side, but I don't know about Mac OS. Cool. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, you're supporting 50% PC, 50% Mac, which is, not unique. A lot of organizations are now having to offer, both
Yep.
platforms. What are you seeing as a security expert, sort of the trends? And what are you seeing on the PC user space and, the endpoint management side versus Mac user, Mac and, supporting Mac OS? Like, what are some of these things that you're seeing that is that actually falls under, okay, we need to actually get our hands dirty and get to work?
So I'm gonna say, in terms of MDM on Windows, there's not really a heck of a lot of good options. I know there's a handful and probably one that somebody can speak to, but there's not really. I wouldn't say we have as many options for MDM. More on par with the PC equivalents. So seeing a trend upwards in usage, but also seeing a trend upwards in attack vectors as well.
And you see the trends in terms of like actual detection as well?
Detection and even just, I guess, detection is the right word. Maybe not specific. A large trend of macOS specific malware. I wouldn't say the same as PC. PC is definitely a lot more, but you're seeing a large rise.
Like in your work specifically?
I'm seeing a good amount of macOS specific malware. Nothing as cool as this one, so I didn't talk about it. But I'm seeing stuff that is specific for macOS.
Why did you choose to get the CISSP, and why do you want to torture yourself?
It was torture. I don't know. Just I'm not a fan of certs, but you're an accountant. You probably need your CPA. I feel like in security, you probably need your CISSP. It wasn't that hard. It took a couple months of studying. I think the stress was worse than the actual exam, and I feel like the exam is written not to be difficult, but just to confuse you on the English. Like I'm a native English speaker, and I can understand the question 90% of the time. I don't know. Sometimes I just want to do malicious things to myself.
What was something that you learned while you're studying that was like really interesting, and where you thought that was like, I'm definitely going to use this in in my framework, or was it just like, I need this?
So the CISSP is very much a managerial exam, and it tries to kind of hammer home that sometimes like the highest level of security may not be the right answer for a company. Sometimes you need to hit that middle ground. Like when I was doing my research, there was a question. It was like, you know, which hashing algorithm is the best hashing algorithm? Like a very general question like that. And somebody that is a security nerd might be like, oh, maybe SHA-512 or something with a high key. But you know, the right answer is like you got to check what your infrastructure, what your tech stack will support. What's the highest level of security that you can get while still maintaining SLAs for your company to run? It was just, I mean, that's not new, but it's something that took me a while to understand and like look at it not just from a security perspective, but from a business perspective. I think that's what kind of took me the longest to kind of think. The technical stuff you can learn, but it's the stuff like that, you know, somebody that doesn't come from the business world is sometimes hard to see, and that's what took the longest for me to learn.
Yeah, I do think, just to highlight that to all the folks here, is that thinking from a business perspective is going to be very, very important when you're thinking about your career. It does not matter if you're like super technical, if you're an SME. If you can't articulate why you need this tool for this business reason, you're not really going to get anywhere. So thank you for highlighting that.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for the question.
One thing I picked out of that was really interesting to me was attacks coming through trusted
Trusted platform.
platforms
Yeah.
from Slack and Teams.
Yeah.
Is that usually through compromised credentials, or is it
Yeah.
more
So yeah.
sophisticated attacks?
Typically, it's through compromised credentials. In our example, it was a customer of ours had one of their employees' accounts compromised, and that's how it came through. But yeah, typically with an attack like this, it's through a compromised account where, you know, even worse, maybe somebody, if they get into somebody's Slack account, they can read the custom, like they can read the messages, and then maybe they can make the file very custom. Like the file name, I don't know if you remember in the screenshot, it said something about affiliates. Like we're a marketing company, we work with affiliates a lot. So if you look at the file name, it's, you know, it goes with our business line. But yeah, it's typically through a compromised account.
So I think our users would click on anything they got from Slack or Teams.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Yeah, yeah.
Without a second thought.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, folks.
Should we take a 5-minute bio break while I swap to your presentation?
Sounds good.
And more pizza. I guess.
If anyone needs a bathroom, let me know and I'll point it. So go down the hall, to the right, it's just all the way to the end.
Yeah.
And on the right.
I don't want to go.
Yeah,
your account.
You're taller. Gotta put you in front.
Yep. No worries. Am I good there? Where's my window in terms of the frame?
So you're
I'm off stage.
You're good there.
Okay.
You're at the very left. And there.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So I got to step on either side.
And I can follow
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
if
Don't
you're-
follow me. It's fine. I'll stay put. Largely, mostly. I'll try. I talk with my hands, which is a real problem now with the gesture-based camera, because I'll count, and then by here I've caused balloons, and you know, and we'll be having a deep, serious conversation about market effects, and suddenly balloons everywhere, and everyone's just laughing at me, and moments of levity are joy, right? Like I think that is a solid use of that feature, even if it should have some MDM controls. Apple, if you're listening.
Until it's a disciplinary meeting?
Well, correct. That's exactly right. You know, I was going to say those are the kind of things where those get to be a problem. So, hi everybody. We're live on the internet. It's great to see everybody out there. Thank you for coming, Anthony Reimer. Hello. It's good to see you, friend. And I miss you. Hi, I'm Tom Bridge. I am the co-chair of the.
This audio is off apparently.
Oh,
Is it? I think it's back.
Turn it back on. Okay.
It's showing.
yeah. Can you hear me?
Eric just says audio is off, but maybe you turn it back on.
I don't know. David says.
Check one. Check one.
Also, there's a delay, so Anthony
Yeah, fair.
might be seeing my message before he hears us. And he says same back at you, Tom.
Fantastic. So the mic works. Awesome. So, hi everybody. My name is Tom Bridge. I'm the co-chair of the Mac Admins Foundation. You may or may not have heard of us. Who, out of curiosity, has heard of the Mac Admins Foundation before right now? About a little more than half. That's most, I would say. That's fantastic. So I wanted to give you guys an update on the first 2 years of the Mac Admins Foundation. And honestly, it kind of blows my mind that it's been 2 whole years since we got this off the ground. I wasn't entirely sure that we were going to make it off the ground, but we did, thanks to the support of an incredible community and all of the people who are backing us out there on the interwebs. So let's take a look at the next slide real quick. So I want to talk about who we are, and I think this one has built. Oh, fancy. We got animations here at the Mac Admins Foundation. Here's our board. I'm down here on the left. Gerard Massey. I'm sorry, I'm blanking where Gerard is right now. He is in the greater DC area. He works for the Bezos Academy. Aaron Merchant, who is starting at Chime on Monday a week from now. Diego Iaconelli, who is at Anthropic. Rich Troughton, who is at SAP. Dr. Emily Kostlik-Whittle, who is at Jamf. And Chris Doth, who is newly independent. That is the board of directors of the Mac Admins Foundation today. We will have some new appointees here before too long, but I don't have those names for you today. So the big question is, well, what is it you say you do here, Tom? The Mac Admins Foundation is here for a couple of big reasons. The first of one is where this advertisement got put tonight, the Toronto channel on the Mac Admins Slack. When we started to realize that Slack is an independent corporation that was out there in the world, they had been bought by Salesforce. The Mac Admins Slack existed on a program that had been started when Slack was a very small company. And Slack used to give out a benefit to any of their staff members. Hey, we'll give you a free instance and you can put that out there. And well, we have been the inheritor of that program for many, many years now. I don't think they intended it for 66,000 people, but that's where we are. And so we started to look around and we were like, well, what if we had to pay for this? Because at this point, Salesforce doesn't do much for free. I love them. They have a great product, but they're not in the business of giving things away, generally speaking. Again, that goes to that MBA conversation that we had before on where those get to be valuable. We did the math, and we started to look around, and we were like, okay, so list price on the Mac Admin Slack would be something around $440,000 US, or approximately 2 Ferrari Romas. That's more than I can drive. I would drive one of those Ferrari Romas, but that was a lot of money. And so we started to look around and we thought about it and we said, you know, hey, there's another way to do this. The cheapest way to get Slack is as a nonprofit organization. And in the United States, that means 501c3 status and a whole bunch of paperwork and a lot of letters to the IRS and phone calls from the IRS, which are surprisingly serious for the record. Those are not a group of people who are known for their deep and abiding sense of humor. And we had to explain what it was that we were trying to do. And they were very confused with us for a little while before we got it all taken care of and aligned. But what we figured out was we could get that down. We could really negotiate that down with Slack if we are a 501c3. And so we started the Mac Admins Foundation. It is a DC-based, 501c3 non-for-profit organization based in the United States. And so we were talking amongst ourselves, the original board of directors, and we were like, just doing the Slack doesn't feel like the right solution here. There's got to be more that we can do. There's got to be more that we can feel like we can support, because really the Slack is a manifestation of those 66,000 Mac admins, of the people in this room, in rooms like this all over the world, whether you're here in Canada, or if you're in the States, or if you're in Europe, or Asia, Africa, South America. There are Mac admins everywhere. There are these machines on desks, or these machines in the hands of people. We know that the greatest strength of our community writ large is our ability to help each other with groups like this. And so when we started to put together thought processes for where we could go, it was, well, how do we get people to be into this profession for the first time? How do we get to attract people from IT to look at specifically the Apple side of the IT scale? I mean, I used to joke that Cisco routers were a great jobs program for the Cisco CCIE engineering schools that are out there, because they're needlessly complex. Or they're so complex that they don't choose to obfuscate any of that complexity away through good user experience or things along those lines. Apple's a little bit different, right? We all come at these machines and we all trust them and use them because honestly, they speak to us on some level. And that's not just that macOS has a built-in screen reader called VoiceOver, although that does help. Or Siri, who will go off whenever we mention her name. As we look at what it takes to be a Mac admin, one of the things that we thought would be very valuable would be, there are all of these great conferences all over the world. There's PSU Mac Admins, which is every July in State College. There's Mac DevOps in Vancouver. Shout out to Matt X, who's out there, I'm sure. Mac Sysadmin in Sweden, JNUC, wherever JNUC happens to be this year. And these are great opportunities for not just learning, but full-scale uplift into the Apple platform story. And it's a great place to go be part of the Mac Admins community and to see that there are, here we are, it's a weekday night. We should all be watching hockey or basketball or having a good time with our families. We're here, we're learning about professional development. We are in this room to come away with something we did not have when we walked in this door. And so when we think about the strength of the foundation, it's in this room. We want to make sure that there's a generation beyond you. And Anthony, who I gave a shout out to a minute ago, he really kind of drilled it into me that he's like, look, I'm gonna retire. And I think he has now. Congratulations, my friend, you have made it. You are living the dream now. You do not have to worry about software update anymore. We want to find the next Anthony, who manages the labs at the University of Calgary. We want to find the next Nick, who gave us a great presentation on security and how important that is to our environment so that we can protect the people we work with. And the way that we do that is by developing this community. We send people to conferences. We're working on a mentorship program that will go live in pilot form in Q1 and broader in Q2 and Q3 this year. We are sending people to more and more conferences as we go through the future. And that's a big part of how we see the Mac Admins community and the strength of that organization. So that's a long-winded way of saying we want to make more Mac Admins. We want to make people understand that this is a viable career path where you can do things, learn things, build things, and do it together. And that there was a time where if you were working in Apple-facing IT, and this time was not all that long ago, it predates this, but not by much. And that was a time where you were probably the only person you knew who worked in Apple IT, except for the crazy people out there on the Mac Enterprise mailing list, or any number of other, communities that existed out there. OSX-server on the Freenode network. There are a lot of like predecessors. We're not here to pay for Slack. We're here to pay for the community. And we're here to make sure that the community has a long-term future. So that's a long-winded way of saying that. We can go on to the next. So what are some of the other things that we do? I want to call out that we did send people to both Mac Admins, JNUC, and the Mac Ad conference in the UK last year. And we had 9 total people that we paid for their ability to go. Oftentimes through great partnerships that we have with other conferences and with other vendors who see the value in this great community that we've built. I also want to highlight the Mac Admins open source project. The Mac Admins open source project is a separate 501c3 organization that holds code signing certificates and an Apple Developer Program account, as well as GitHub libraries and things along those lines. We want the future of open source tools like AutoPackage, like Monkey, like the Xcreds project, as best we possibly can to carry that signatory. And so we are working to produce those kind of things and build those things forward. You can find out more about Mac Admins open source at macadmins.io. And there's a Mac Admins, there's a Mac Admins open source, MAOS, Mouse. I prefer Mac Admins open source, but Mouse is kind of cool too. And they have a channel on the Mac Admins Slack. We'd love to have that there. We also see that there's a huge amount of career development that's available, thanks in large part to our friends at Apple, who have realized that, look, we've got to provide some level of training and certification that's out there. Our very first program was to get people certified with their ACSP and with their Apple Certified IT Professional certifications. And so we had a sizable grant from them to make new Mac Admins. And we look forward to renewing that program in future years and allowing people to get their certifications. We all know that certifications have a complicated history and that they have a different level of value to every different organization. But it's a strong way to learn. It's a strong way to learn without having to pay for a lot of expensive hardware. And it's a great credential to show on your resume that says, hey, this is an opportunity to grow. All right, let's head forward from there. All right, the money part, because I do want to talk about the money part. The only way the Mac Admins Foundation works is if we've got good donors and we've got good programs. So with that said, and I'm going to let you go to the next slide, we get to talk a little bit about the ins and the outs, because we want to be very transparent with the money that we've received. In our first year, in 2022, we wanted to raise $250,000. We thought this was a Looney Tunes high goal. Hit the next build. We blew right by it. We raised $256,000, $256,604.02. And that was our total inbound cash influx to get started. Let's go to the next. So where did this money come from, Thomas? You did not rob a bank, did you? And the answer is not if you can't prove it. But let's talk about who are our wonderful, stunning, generous, perfect, asterisk, sponsors who we all love dearly and who can never do anything wrong, also asterisk. And I'm speaking as Tom Bridge, the human being here, not Tom Bridge, the board member. I love all of our sponsors. They've been incredibly generous with us. I want to give a huge amount of thanks to the HCS Technology Group and Craig Cohen's group, Alec Trona and Chad Swarthout in the DC area, Rob Calvert and Second Sun Consulting, Christopher Schass at Rocket Man, and then I also want to thank very generously our very first donor was the Chip and Amy Pearson Foundation, who run Bootstrappers Minnesota, who were one of our very, very first donors to help us get off the ground, along with the Mac Admins podcast. Jamf, Adigy, Meta, Kanji, Collide, JumpCloud, Mosel. These are all major industry players who stepped up to the community's call when it came time to actually do this or do our initial fundraise. And so they did incredible work for us. They helped us get this off the ground, pay for all of the tax-exempt paperwork, and there was a lot of that. It did involve me talking to lawyers. I promise I was not guilty. But there was a whole long conversation that needed to happen about the corporate structure of the Mac Admins Foundation and going through good governance. Jim.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt it, but I
Yep.
thought this was an interesting one. Out of all those companies, Meta stands out as being very odd.
Yes, and our friends at Meta, when they found out that we were doing this, and they said, we have benefited so much from the Mac Admins Slack, from the Mac Admins community, through the development of Monkey, Auto Package, other open source tools, that they earmarked part of their budget and they became a major sponsor and donated more than $25,000 to the Mac Admins Foundation. So huge ups. I had to eat a lot of crow because I'm not a huge Meta fan, generally speaking. I became a Meta fan that day. I reactivated my Facebook and Instagram. Mark Zuckerberg, thank you. And also thank you to the incredible IT team and the CPE team, one of the teams that has kind of brought the concept of client platform engineering and Mac management to the fore. These guys have done incredible work, these guys and gals rather, and have done some just amazing work over the years. So that was a huge thanks to Meta. And of course our newest sponsor is MacPaw, and Adigy both joined during 2023. So onward to the next. So this is the actual dollars and cents of it all. We raised about $175,000 from corporate donors, about a little under $8 grand from business donors, 10 grand from non-for-profit donors. Individual donors came up with about $527. Employee matching donations, which we did register for through various charity programs, got us about another $1,800. We got a $30,000 grant in the middle of this process as well. And then $10,888.57 for merch from the Mac Admins Foundation. I do have stickers with me. Come see me for stickers after we're done here. And then we made $315.12 off of the interest rates. Thank you, Fed. This was FY 2022. We'll have the FY 2023 breakdown. We had a much lower fundraising effort in 2023 because we were focused on building our programs. And so we chose not to go on the roadshow to go back out for more funds when we were still building out the programs that were going to be funded by that money. So that'll be something you hear more about in 2024. All right, on to the next. This is the pleasant pie graph that goes along with that. You can see that corporate level donors make up most of our incoming funds. On to the next. All right, so what did we spend that money on? I promise it was not New Vision Pros for the board. All right. In 2022, we spent $34,706.52 on the Mac Admins Slack. We spent $30,000 on Apple certification scholarships, which are still in process and will conclude this summer. We spent about $8,700 on general admin expenses, and that's accountants and lawyers and professional assistants. We have an incredible consultant who works with us. His name is Andy Fife. He is a consultant that specializes in community-based nonprofits and has helped us craft a board, a set of bylaws, a set of programs, a set of books, a set of everything to make sure that we are doing things in a way that is open, transparent, legal. Very important, that one. I do not want to go to jail. I would not last a day, but that's very important. And then we spent $913 in our first year on the Mac Admins open source project to get them off the ground and get them bootstrapped for a total of $74,000 in the first year. And that leaves us with expenses. And then what was left? What did we have left in the bank? $182,266.97. And that's where we started 2023. Onward. So what about 2023, the year that was? And what about 2024 as we talk forward from there? Continue? Oh. So in 2023, we focused our efforts on the community and conference grant program. We sent 5 people to Penn State, we sent 2 people to JNUC, and 2 people to MacAd. And we had financial support for the Mac Admins open source project to get them off the ground, get them logistical support, and to build their organization. We renewed the Slack again, and then we had some administrative costs related to the organization from there. And that breaks out to, because here's the important part, right? Go ahead and hit the advance button. We spent that $34,700 in 2022. In 2023, we got a bill for $49,363.29 to cover the Slack, starting in July of 2023. I'm happy to say that that bill has been paid, and you can go to the next slide. But we have another bill coming up this coming July, 6 months from now, for $56,884.92. this is the last year of our Slack contract. We are expecting that number to go up again next year. I have a lot of feelings about that. We're trying to make that better. But we know how important this resource is to the community, and it's absolutely the best thing we can spend our money on. So I'm happy to say if you hit the advance button, one more, paid! We are paid up through July of this year. We have enough funds in cash today to cover our 2024 bill. And that's before we've started the campaign. So I'm very confident that the community will step up largely. Mr. Yoon.
Who flipped this bill before? I'm just curious.
Slack did internally. And so the question was, who footed the bill before? Slack did internally. We were part of a program whose history is less than clear, and it could have gone away at any moment. And that was the risk that we were trying to hedge against. It was like saying, cool, we got this awesome squat, and we're building up all of this resource, we're building up all of this stuff, but we don't have a lease for this place. We definitely are not the landlord. And so the risk is that Slack could show up at any moment and say, you have 30 days to come up with 56,800. That's an 80s movie waiting to happen, for the record. And in those cases, the spunky kids got to come up with $56,884.92. Or, I mean, we could have gone the Blues Brothers route, and that would be my preference. I am totally down for a massive highway chase that ends in Cook County Assessor's Office, especially if we get to have that soundtrack associated with that. I am down for that. I think that is a phenomenal plan. But what we are trying to do is stay ahead of that. So Slack was covering that cost through internal marketing programs. We don't know what the future of that program is. And I don't think Slack does either. And we no longer had someone at Slack that we could comfortably talk to about that program any longer. Because here we are, 66,000 odd people on this free Slack instance with all of the bells and all of the whistles. Not to mention, almost 10 years of history. I cannot imagine what we were costing them in ARPU. So,
are we like one of the biggest customers?
That's a really great question. I don't think we are one of the biggest customers. I mean, there are obviously customers who pay for hundreds of thousands of seats. I cannot imagine what Apple's Slack bill is like, but I know that they have an enterprise grid account with a whole, there are 150,000 people who work at Apple, right? I mean, these other large corporations are, shoveling money into the Salesforce engine to keep their Slack rolling. So our important step here, though, is that we are here where the community is. And if that community is not on Slack, we're still here for the community. If we can find a better way to do this, if there's another solution for the problem that we have that makes more sense, we're going to bring it out to the community and say, this costs us X% of that. Do we want to stay or do we want to go? We'll have those conversations from time to time. I'm not in any hurry to leave Slack. I'm addicted. I mean, yeah, it's a problem. Too many Slacks. That's just kind of where we roll. All right, on to the next. So, what do we need? Your support. More than anything, we are looking for people who want to be involved. We are looking for people who want to mentor newer people. We are looking for recruiters who want to recruit new people. We want to talk with you about sponsorships. If your business is really benefiting from the Mac Admin Slack and the knowledge that you learn there, we would love to talk with you guys. Doesn't need to come with a commit for any kind of funds. We're happy to talk to literally everyone because we think that that is valuable. That meta contribution was a huge contribution to us from that perspective because they do recognize the value of this community. And we're talking with more and more organizations as we go through the time to make sure that this is a reality for all of us. On to the next. All right, so what does the future hold? Question marks. Lots and lots of question marks. Awesome, hit the next one. Our 2024 plan is to expand the community and conference grant program to more conferences. We want to send more people places. We don't just want to cover their ticket costs for the conference. We want to give them a cash grant so that they can get there, stay there, have dinner while they're at the conference, and if need be, use some of those funds to defray childcare costs, because we know it takes effort to travel for work. A 10-year-old who is really not happy with me that I'm here tonight instead of at home and at Scouts with him tonight. But like, those are the kind of things that we want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to go to conferences if they want to. We want to expand our working committees to non-board member volunteers. The Mac Admins the Mac Admins Foundation has 4 standing committees, and we are looking for volunteers to sit on mentorship, finance, fundraising, and the community and conference grant program committee. These are all things that we can use your best ideas. And this is a great way to give back to your community as a whole. Come talk to me after, and I'm happy to talk about that. We also want to add additional process planning for an organizational maturity. We have been working with Andy Fife to make us a more resilient organization that is not subject to me getting hit by the lottery bus. And that means building processes and a deep bench to find all the people who can help us grow into the future. In addition, we want to make sure that we grow that volunteer corps for the next 5 years and beyond. So that's a big part of where we're headed. Cool. On to the next. So if you want to support us, we are a 501c3 charity. I know that only matters in the United States.
We get tax
reciprocals
for American.
Ha ha! That is the best news I've had all day. This is actually cooler. Get a t-shirt. Get a sweatshirt. I will say the new zip hoodies are stupid comfortable. I was not expecting to love that thing. I have 2 now. And Charlie steals one of mine from now and again. And this is a great way to support the organization and get a charity deduction in the process. We work with a vendor called Bonfire. They are specifically for charitable organizations. If you were looking to set up a campaign for Toronto-based merch, you can set up a Toronto-based merch campaign in Bonfire that benefits the Mac Admins Foundation. And they'll handle fulfillment, they'll handle printing, they're good quality materials, it's a really solid outfit. And we're happy to talk with organizers after the fact on that one. So with that, I say thank you. I say the Mac Admins Foundation cannot exist without you. And so for that, I say thank you for spending your Tuesday night with us. And it's a great pleasure to be with you. So thank you. And now we get to talk about something completely different, which is to say we get to talk a little bit about Apple IDs. Okay. Who here is actually using managed Apple IDs in production? Thank you for going first. We deeply appreciate the arrows that you took, because we all know that this process is less than awesome.
We federated 2 months ago, and today was the end of the federation, so we got all the errors.
Oh. Yep. We will, I was going to say, there is a help desk conversation that we will have as part of this conversation. Awesome. So, hello, I'm Tom Bridge. I'm also the Director of Product Management for a little company called JumpCloud. We're based out of Boulder, Colorado. Actually, Louisville, Colorado, which is between Boulder and Denver, if you're familiar with the Colorado area. I live in Washington, D.C. I have been at JumpCloud for about 3 years. Prior to that, I spent 20 years doing Apple-facing IT in the nonprofit space, and then at an MSP that I founded. And so I've spent a lot of my career focused on these Apple devices and getting them to play nicely with Apple's services and with literally everybody else. So at JumpCloud, we are both an IDP on one hand and a device manager on the other. We are cross-platform on the device management side, and we're an open directory platform on the directory management side. That means we can take identities from any place else, we can federate them to devices, we can federate them to SSO applications, we can deliver them to Radius networks, Samba shares, all sorts of fun stuff like that. You can check us out at jumpcloud.com. And that is the end of the JumpCloud conversation this evening. Everything I'm here to talk to you about today is about federating managed Apple IDs. If you know me, you know that I have one hobby horse that I have beaten to death over the last few years, and that is, please, for the love, let me federate my managed Apple IDs with literally anyone other than Azure. And last year I got a Christmas present, or 2 years ago I got a Christmas present that they would also federate with Google Workspace, which was great, but not what I wanted for Christmas that year. What I really wanted was OpenID Connect. And I'll talk a little bit about why I want that, and then what that means for everybody out there. Who here uses an IDP that is not Azure or Google Workspace today? A fair number of hands. Is your current IDP focused on OpenID Connect and SAML? Awesome. Fantastic. We're here to talk about how you can federate managed Apple IDs with OpenID Connect. You may have noticed that Apple turned on the beta functionality in Apple Business Manager to federate your OpenID Connect, your Apple IDs with an OpenID Connect environment. In addition, they also now support SCIM for import of identity into Apple Business Manager. So not only can you use your IDP to authenticate your managed Apple IDs, you can use your IDP to provision those accounts without you having to log into Apple Business Manager, create the account, by hand, hope you don't hit a typo, create a login, send that to the user, and hope they used it correctly. You don't have to worry about that anymore. Or you won't when your IDP supports it. So this is a feature that is in rapid evolution, I think is probably the best way to say it. We are 2 weeks into the beta. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what that means for you as an organization, what kind of opportunities this gives you, and we can move forward from there. So, all right, on to the next slide. So I wanted to talk, step back once. I was going to say the original talk was the who, what, where, why, and how. I've always start with an alternate title slide as well. This is about OpenID Connect, SCIM, shared signals frameworks, and your organization. And this is the first time I'm giving this talk, so feedback, constructive or otherwise, is absolutely welcome, either in DM on the Mac Admin Slack or come find me afterwards, or I'll buy you a beer and we'll figure out those kind of things. Onward to the next. So, a quick agenda. What are managed Apple IDs? Why should I federate their authentication? And who can I federate to? And when should I consider doing this crazy task? And where's all of this going, right? Because I think that that's probably the most interesting thing that we have to think about. On to the next. So what's a managed Apple ID here? How many people in this room have at least one managed Apple ID? How many people have Apple Business Manager accounts that they don't think are managed Apple IDs? Okay, your Apple Business Manager account is a managed Apple ID, whether you think it is or not. So everybody in this room should have one. It's a great thing to have, but they were really limited. And it was very funny. I was at Macaduck in May of last year, and Jeremy Butcher from Apple Product Marketing was there to give a talk on the state of things, and he got to the Apple ID section. And Jeremy waxed rhapsodic on how hard this problem was, and everybody in the room just kind of went, oh, man. And we all kind of took away the wrong message, which was iCloud Keychain was never coming to managed Apple IDs, or at least it wasn't coming this year. Federation was probably way far out on the horizon, and we all just kind of oh man, that sucks. I can't believe it. We're gonna have to go another year without iCloud Keychain or continuity features on managed Apple IDs and things like that. Well, it turns out that was not the message he was trying to send. He was trying to send the message, hey, this is really hard, and we've been thinking a lot about it, because not 2 weeks later at Worldwide Developers Conference, Apple announces the features in bold. With a managed Apple ID, you can sign into Apple services and, starting now, anchor an iCloud keychain against that managed Apple ID, which means support for continuity features like handoff or universal control, so that if you have a work Mac signed into your managed Apple ID and a work iPad signed into your managed Apple ID, connecting between the two devices is as seamless as doing it with your personal Mac and your personal iPhone or iPad. In addition, Apple announced support for passkeys in iCloud keychains, which means that you can have super duper secure credentials in your work iCloud keychain, which is great because we all want to send the password to a fiery death for every reason that Nick just mentioned in his talk earlier today. Phishing credentials is bad, and we should all feel bad because we're all still tolerating passwords. I saw on the wall back there the CGI quote. It was a Mikeism, I believe, where he was saying you accept what you walk by. and we've been kind of accepting and walking by passwords for a long time. We now have an opportunity to move towards a more passwordless future, thanks to syncing credentials between multiple devices that are much more secure, and doing it in the background. So in addition, managed Apple IDs can sign into third-party services through the Sign In with Apple. If you've ever used that to create an account, that's a great way to do that. You can do that with your managed Apple ID. In addition, as of this past summer, the fall on this one, you could gain access to developer tools for your domain behind a managed Apple ID. And you can also do that based on whether or not the device they are logging in from is managed or not, or supervised or not. And so that's super exciting. In addition, you can hold identities in cards like access controls. I want to give Jamf a huge shout out because they've got a really great access control product that's built into Jamf Pro. And you can provision a direct access identity so that you can just pull out your phone and go boop at the front door and get into your office with it. That's spectacular. And that's all based on cards that are hanging out in Wallet.
Do you have to make that sound?
Boop. Yes, correct. It is legally obligated. It's part of the standard. And on to the next. So, why should we federate our identities? Who here likes making new accounts and setting up new passwords? How many people have, I went and looked at my 1Password vault the other day, and I have more than 300 entries in my 1Password for my personal email alone. That's a lot of accounts out there that I have to manage the credentials for, and no, that's just not a good time. That's not my idea of fun. That's a massive attack surface that your organization has to deal with when that's a corporate email product. And so I want to talk about OpenID Connect by showing you what it does, and then I want to talk a little bit about System for Cross-Identity Management and the Shared Signals Framework. All three of these things work together to make your life better as a Mac admin by federating to your IDP. So onwards. So in the beginning, we had the password. And I'm going to see which of the internet olds gets my joke. Not a one? Nobody? Ah, there we go. Thank you. Fantastic. Somebody got it. All right. And on to the next. I want to separate the concept of authorization from the concept of authentication. Authentication is, are you who you say you are? I did it this morning when I went to security at DCA. Pulled out my driver's license, I put it in the machine, they stared at something, I stared at something, and they decided that I was in fact Thomas Adam Bridge, born on October 8th of 78, and that was what got me into the flight, into the airport, and to have all those things. Authorization was a separate part of that conversation. I had to prove who I was to them before they even bothered to scan my boarding pass, because that boarding pass was my authorization to be on the other side of security. And without the authorization boarding pass, I was there on a fool's errand. There was no way they were going to let me through. They knew who I was. They knew that I wanted to get through security, but I didn't have a boarding pass. So they knew they couldn't let me in. So that's the difference between authentication and authorization. If we think about what authentication factors exist out there, it's a password, it's a passkey, it's an identity certificate, it's a PIN to get into your phone. It is a hardware token like a YubiKey or a crypto card or any of the other various and sundry FIDO2 tokens that are out there on the market today. Authorization comes down to what groups are you part of? What groups are your user part of? Do I have an access pass to be where I'm supposed to be? I used to work in concert IT, and that meant backstage at Merriweather, I had a laminate that said working all access. That got me into any place I needed to go except dressing rooms. And so that let me explore the IT ditches beneath the concert venue and do a lot of facilities-based stuff, but it didn't let me in with the rock stars because I wasn't a rock star. And that's exactly the way you approach these kind of things. Principle of least privilege. So you also get things like application permissions, time of access evaluation. Should you be accessing this particular functionality at 3:30 in the morning when you should be asleep? Well, maybe if you're a shift worker, sure. But if that's not part of your standard operating hours, or maybe it's way outside your standing operating, should we be, calling security on you? Probably. That's where we get into some of those trend analysis pieces that Nick was talking about before. In addition, we get to talk about contextual awareness. Are you where you're supposed to be? Do you look like you belong? Federation, at the end of the day, is all about context, auth Z, control, auth N. You want to be able to do both of these things in a sane and clear manner. You want a single user and authentication source for all of your applications. That is to say that they support the open standards for connecting identities that way through SAML, through OpenID Connect, and that maybe don't charge you an arm and a leg and maybe your other arm for access to that particular functionality. I have this linked to the SSO Tax website, sso.tax. Memorize it, learn it, shame your account managers with it. I strongly recommend doing that. They love those conversations, and by love, I mean they get really awkward and really fast, and they call in their product managers to defend them. And not that I've ever been on those conversations. It's also really, really important that this gives you the ability to group those users that are stored in your identity directory for clear roles and principles of least privilege to give you access to things that you need and not to things that you want but do not need. In addition, these tools can allow or deny access based on rules. They can basically say, you're coming from Canada. You do not have work access in Canada. I cannot let you into JIRA. I'm really sorry. You do not belong here right now, eh? So onward and forward, you can go. You have to come back to the States before I put you to work again. I had an employee travel recently to Malaysia. He had a good conversation with security, and they were like, we cannot let you work from there. We do not have a license agreement to work in Malaysia. We could be subject to fines. We could be subject to legal repercussions. Do not take your work laptop with you. Those are the kind of things that you can do as an IDP based on where your access comes from, but only if your IDP is in that loop. That feedback loop is incredibly important. So, when should you federate? This one's a really key topic. This process here of going into Apple Business Manager and turning this switch on and verifying your domain and just, hey, look, I'm going to do a quick text record verification of, demonicloud.com or jumpcloudlabs.dev or any of these other domains that JumpCloud keeps around for testing purposes. That gives you the ability to restrict who may create Apple IDs from that domain. If really what you decide is, hey, look, I may not be ready to give out a managed Apple ID to every one of my employees, but I really do not want production Apple ID accounts to be made on my domain, do this part and stop. You don't have to do anything else. But claiming your domain is super duper important as part of that process. You'll also see here at the bottom, this is the new UI. This is part of the beta program. It's federated authentication. You can see that here I have a custom identity provider configured. If I was set up to use Google, if I was set up to use Azure, that would say something different. This is a working version of the screenshot here. So onward to the next. I want to talk about the benefits for you for handling this federation. Account creation using your domain is limited to Apple Business Manager. That means you have claimed that domain. This is my space. This is a business space. We are only going to allow managed Apple IDs from here. If you want to block production Apple ID accounts, you can do it from here. You also, from the federation and account creation process, can create accounts using your external directory magically. This is amazing because then if you have somebody join your company and get assigned to your IT group and they need access to Apple Business Manager, you can grant it. Or if you want to do user enrollment for Jamf or JumpCloud or anybody else, you can create a staff account for them and start issuing them applications to their personal device using user enrollment. Those applications go into the secure container in their user enrollment space, which you, as their MDM admin, can close at any given time. That person wins the lottery, gives their notice, you can just turn their email off, turn their account off. Suddenly the container that has all of their work apps just collapses and it's gone. This is the benefits of APFS on iOS. You get a separate container that you both hold keys to. Their PIN has one of those keys, your MDM has the other. You can also do at that point password resets through your help desk or your directory account. You don't have to send somebody through Apple Business Manager to do a password reset. You're just resetting their directory password. And they should know their directory password. And that will lower the cost of doing these things as opposed to generating password reset links, doing those kind of tasks on a more manual basis. This also lets you know who has a company Apple ID or an Apple ID on your domain. You cannot know if you do not claim the domain. You cannot know if they are not managed Apple IDs.
You're
David.
saying password reset through your IDP. Look that up. That's what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. When you've done the federation process, your password will be from your IDP, and you will round trip through your IDP, and we'll look at that in a diagram here in just a second. So, there is also stuff you have to deal with during the federation process. This is the good stuff. I don't know what this stuff is, but it's not good in most cases. Apple IDs created before federating have about 60 days, as you mentioned, that they can hang around before they need to be renamed, or their passwords reset and renamed, or any if you can eventually take them back. It is a big challenge. This is what we would call a brownfield problem. This is not the greenfield. This is not a brand new business. Somebody set up an Apple ID a long time ago. You don't know about that Apple ID. You don't even know who has it. You may be able to determine what the email address is that's associated with it.
Apple tells you there's 270 Apple IDs
Correct.
in this domain, and they're going to expire in 60 days. And you go,
but who do they belong to?
Give me the list. For privacy reasons.
For privacy reasons, we can't get that list. In the back.
Yeah, there's another really big gotcha with that, and that is, although they tell you it's 60 days, after 30 days, that little sign in, skip and sign in, disappears from the web page, and you actually have to hack the HTML to get that back.
Oh boy. Okay, so I have some more work to do. Yeah, I was going to say super good time.
60 days. It starts to happen before the 60 days.
No, at 30 days, they take away that skip and sign in later. Like the whole
Yeah, you have to go through the.
So you really only have 30 days.
Yes, correct. Otherwise, you get into real fun problems. They will have to change their identity to their existing Apple ID. You still have no control over those Apple IDs. If they bought stuff, I hope they didn't put it on their company card. If they bought stuff, I hope they didn't expense it, because guess what? You do not own that. You do not own that. That belongs to the Apple ID, which is now in the hands of the person who used it. So that is less than awesome, and so be aware of that. This does take 60 days to complete. That is a very long time. But that does give you time to message your people a lot, over-communicate, talk to them about what they're doing and why, and talk to them about what the risk score is if they don't do it. This last one sucks the most. You have no way of knowing who they are. I don't have good words to say about that, so I'm just going to keep going if that's cool. All right, onward. So, who can I federate to? Well, the answer is, until this month, the answer was Google Workspace and Azure AD or Entra ID, depending on what flavor of longevity you are familiar with Microsoft's directory provider. Until this month, those were the only two people that know. Now, it's anybody who does OpenID Connect and Shared Signals Framework. Shared Signals Framework, we'll talk about in just a minute, but it has some fun properties. Like allowing you to close the loop with Apple when you change credentials or suspend accounts. Onward. So, what does this mean? Who can do this today? When Apple got up at Worldwide Developers Conference last year, they announced that Okta was their launch partner for this. I understand it is in beta with Okta now. I have not seen their documentation. It is not public. I understand it is possible to do these things. JumpCloud, who I work for and have access to all of our production services, can also do this. I don't know of anybody else yet. So we are watching this very carefully. My hope is OneLogin picks this up. Any of the other IDPs can pick this up and run with it if they are willing to do OpenID Connect, and do Shared Signals Framework. These are not huge lifts. All right, so OpenID Connect. What if I just wanted to use one ID literally everywhere and just have it ratify against that single password? OpenID Connect's history is hilarious to me because it started in 2005 when Brad Fitzpatrick wanted to let somebody else comment on his LiveJournal. Yes, LiveJournal is responsible for OpenID Connect. He was also at the time working for 6apart, makers of movable type, a venerable blog engine that existed before WordPress. And one of the focuses of their process was, look, I want to allow outside commenting. I should not have to make an account at LiveJournal just so that I can comment on somebody's LiveJournal. That's a lot of effort to invent an entire open standard just to comment on a LiveJournal. I don't know who here else had a LiveJournal account in 2005, or who is not admitting that right now, and frankly, I respect that. Continue. So what I want to talk to is how OpenID Connect connects you between an application and your IDP. Your relying party, which is Apple Business Manager in this first case, and your directory. And so we start here on the left with a user and a password. I want to log in to Apple Business Manager. So go ahead and hit the first build. This one's got several. I'm going to go to Apple Business Manager and I'm going to put in my email address. Apple's going to look up that email address and be like, oh, federated, I got to send you someplace else. Pop up a window and send you to the IDP. This is a pop-up window over top of your browser. At this point, you are showing the UI of the directory that is trusted. That linkage is created through what's called an OpenID Connect application that is handled by setting up a secret and a client ID, and you share those between the two parties, much like you would, private information like in an Apple, an APNS certificate. And so other things are done at that point to set up that connector. Once I type tom.bridge@jumpcloud.com, it's like, whoa there, buddy. You're a JumpCloud account. I can't authenticate you. I have to send you someplace else. So what happens at that point is that we go back to the user. The user gets the JumpCloud interface at this point, and then we type in our username and our password, and we go back, hit the one more, and that authentication process is completed. If we are authorized to use that application or to go through that process, if and only if, we go through the next one more build, and one more. We now come back, the directory hands something to the application and says, he's good. You now have access to where you're supposed to be. Your directory makes the authn and the authz call as to whether or not you go through that process successfully. If you fail out for whatever reason, you don't do your multi-factor, you don't do your multi-factor in your DNA sample, you don't provide a character and all of these other things to go into that profile, you don't go into the service. This process never happens because this is your approving factor here. So isn't this just more passwords? Well, not exactly. It's tokens. OpenID Connect tokens are, this is my favorite. The District of Columbia, where I live, is not a state. We are a municipality that is a federal protectorate, which means I do not have a member of Congress. I do not have a senator of any kind. Any product of the United States policy is not my fault. I just want to say that clearly in public while I'm in a foreign country. I'm safe. You can let me go back. It's good. Anyway, we publish a sample image of what a DC driver's license looks like. And meet Thomas Alexander Sample Card, who lives at 1234 Commodore Joshua Barney Drive Northeast, because they choose the longest address that DC has to make the sample license. And he's 6'4" and 200 pounds. And we have a driver's license. This is an OpenID Connect ID token. This tells me everything I need to know as a relying party about who this person is and who is trying to authenticate from my environment. In addition, I get an access token. This ID token is signed by the identity provider. with a certificate that can be referenced from the relying party. And that's conducted during the setup process of the OpenID client application. This ID token says who you are, and the access token lets you in the door. That encrypted access token is usually just a body that is then encrypted with a certificate that only the IDP and the relying party can read. Third parties in between can't take a look at it, you can't inspect it, can't go deep on it because it's all encrypted with the TLS security that's holding the whole of the internet together. Onward. So with an identity token, you get an account reference. When I use an access token or a refresh token, Microsoft calls it the primary refresh token, PRT. JumpCloud calls it a device user refresh token. All of these people have sui generis names, but what they are is access tokens. That will get me a session cookie or something similar in an application that says, I am who I say I am, and I'm supposed to be here. And it mints me another access token. Because much like that subway token, when I throw it in the turnstile or throw it into the bus gate and get on that bus, I can't use it anymore. It's gone. It's been burned. But I get another one for the transfer. And so the next time I come back out, I can do the whole thing. Now, if I lose my access token or that access token expires because they can have time delay on them, you can basically say your access token's good for 30 days. If you don't use it within 30 days, you got to go through the whole cycle all over again and sign in with your IDP again. Here's what an ID token looks like. You get an issuer of the ID token, you get a subscriber ID, which is the GUID, the unique identifier for that token, for that identity. You get who this token is for, which is an audience. You get an expiration date, which is there. You can see this is an epoch time. We also get an issued at time frame. And then we get a name, a given name, a family name, a birth date, an email address here at pretendco.com. ID tokens also contain headers, which tells me how things are encrypted or decrypted or encoded, and it also gives me cryptographic signatures from the people that are issuing, so that I can know that that in fact came from all of this. All right, go to the next one. All right. I know this looks like Kerberos TGTs. I need you to not be afraid. It is okay. It is okay. I know that you are triggered right now, and I want to make sure that you are feeling comfortable. But since you don't have to do your own DNS, it's not scary. Okay? Just want everybody, and really what I'm saying is if you've been a Mac admin less than 10 years, you may or may not remember what it was like to set up an Open Directory master, which was the initial identity directory on Mac OS server. Or OS 10 server in the bad old days, or Mac OS 10 server in the really bad old days. If you screwed up your DNS, God help you, because you were not getting those passwords back. And those accounts where you are going to have to reset the passwords on literally everybody's computer. There are some of us who have never gotten over this. I promise this is not as scary as those bad old days. OpenID Connect is a mature standard. This is a really straightforward process. This is a really clean process for you in these cases. So what's shared signals framework? We talked about OpenID Connect. What if I wanted to tell somebody else that you changed your password? Who here has heard of SLO, single log out? This is the event that all admins want. You can basically say, I want to hit one button and say, sorry, Tom, you got to sign back in everywhere for everything. SLO is the golden goose. It does not exist. It is the dream that we all hold deep in our hearts and hope to get to one day, but we are not there yet. Shared Signals Framework used to be called something else. It used to be called CAPE, C-A-E-P, which was a standard developed out of Google that was here to do the exact same kinds of things. That has now become part of the Shared Signals Framework. Once again, a joint of the OpenID Foundation. This is the longevity and power of a long-lived, well-supported community foundation for OpenID Connect. So that connects the dots between our two talks tonight. Thank you, it's been fun. But in these cases, Shared Signals Framework is not mature in the way that OpenID Connect is mature. It's only 4 to 5 years old. There is still no ratified standard for this. The standard is undergoing changes all the time. It used to be called SSE, now it's called SSF. Might be SSG by the time I get home tomorrow night. I don't know. But what we can say is that these shared signals frameworks are here to do some really important tasks. They're here to be the signaling engine in our rail yard. They're here to take us through the spot. And I love this photo from user 70,023 Venus 2009 that I found on Flickr with the Creative Commons license. And I thank them for participating in the comments. All right. So, in this case, when I, Thomas, sample card, hit a password change, I tell my directory, I have changed my password, please update your records. The directory is then responsible for telling Apple, hey, Thomas sample card changed his password right now. At that point, Apple can then tell their device or their iCloud session or anything else along those lines, kill those login cookies. It's time to log in again. Alternatively, Thomas sample card has been stealing the petty cache. Again, an example that only works for the olds. We used to keep these boxes with cash in them at work, and you could sign out some petty cash to go pay for an expense, and you had to put the money back if it wasn't going to be an approved expense. This is the plot of I think, what was it? Oh God, another great 80s or early 90s movie with Christina Applegate. Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. There we go. In this case, Thomas sample card has been stealing from the petty cache. He gets suspended by his admin. With shared signals framework, we can kill his Apple ID on his phone. His session no longer has access to any of the container that is in his user enrollment or any of the documents or pictures or anything along those lines that are in his managed Apple ID. Do not pass go, do not cross, do not pay $200. Definitely head directly to jail. So, this is where we get into the requirements for all of these things. And I'm going to hurry up because it's 8:25. In order to federate with OpenID Connect, you need to get from your IDP for Apple Business Manager a client secret for OpenID Connect, a client identifier. This is the user password combo that's going to get you in both places. We need the OpenID Connect well-known URL. It's it's a specific URL that your IDP will give you for your domain. It will also give you a shared signals URL. Those are the 4 things that Apple Business Manager needs for federation. And you also need to get the redirect URL for Apple Business Manager so that you know where to send people back when they've successfully authenticated, so that you can complete that round trip loop through here. So, provisioning is the other part of this. This is just the federation side. You also have to do the same kind of thing, but in reverse for system for cross-identity management. In this case, Jump Cloud, or your IDP, is the relying party. And Apple Business Manager is the identity party. Because here, we're talking about creating accounts here based on the relying party information here. We are closing the loop on account creation as part of this process. And so what will happen is, you'll go to your Jump Cloud console, you'll create a SCIM framework associated with the individual app. It's going to redirect you to Apple and back again, and then give you out to the user at that point. So what do you need to use SCIM with Apple Business Manager? You're going to get from your IDP for Apple Business Manager a client secret and an identifier, and you're going to get that redirect URL from Apple. Or you're going to get it from the IDP so that they can do the round trip with SCIM at that point. That's the point at which you can turn it all on, and your next authentication will be out through there. So I want this, and of course, like yesterday, so what do we do about this? Well, we have to wait a little bit. We're in beta land right now. Who there thinks running a beta application in production sounds like fun and a good time? Please come talk to me afterwards. I want to talk to you about you setting this up in your production environment so that we can test this. So this is my way of saying, if you are not already talking to your IDP about managed Apple ID federation, you should be. If you haven't yet heard, Okta's got it in beta. I've got a developer program that I'm happy to talk with folks about directly after the fact. Managed Apple IDs aren't for everybody yet. We're getting closer. The concept of user enrollment for BYOD phones. This is Tom Bridges' iPhone. I want to be able to access key company resources from here, but I need to do it safely in a way that my IT department is comfortable with. User enrollment is that, because I could be a curling magnate. I could be the best guitar player on the East Coast. None of these things are true, for the record. But my employer does not need to know that. And I don't need full management of my personal phone to get access to company resources. What I need is user enrollment against a federated managed Apple ID. And those things are going to let me get applications from my company, have them in a secure container that my IT admin and I both have keys to, and that at the conclusion of that, if I'm done using work on my personal phone, I can turn it off. Or my admin can decide that I'm done using those resources at work, and he or she can turn it off. These are all perfectly viable and safe ways to approach BYOD device management that puts you in control as a Mac admin, especially if you've got a federated managed Apple ID, because we didn't even get to account-driven user enrollment or account-driven device enrollment. So if you want to see what it looks like, if you want to just kill the slideshow, and you can go to iCloud.com in an incognito tab.
Sure, let me get the stream over to that. So iCloud and incognito?
Yep, iCloud and incognito. It's going to try and log in as you, so don't let it. But click the three dots in the upper right. Scroll down. You should be able to see. There we go, sign in.
Yeah.
The user account that we're going to use for this, you should say use a different Apple ID, is Joel3 at demonimpcloud.com. Yep. This is one of our testing domains. It was a typo of one of our demo domains, so we bought it because we thought it sounded cool. This is what you see. Click continue. You're going to get a pop-up, hopefully. There may be another window that's off screen.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead and hit continue. I'm going to type in the password real quick here. I probably should not read that credential out over the phone.
It's okay, everyone saw my managed Apple IDs.
And now we're logged in. And essentially, if we logged into JumpCloud at this point and either rotated or suspended Joel's account, we'd be kicked out of this in under 60 seconds. Which is pretty rad. That's as close to single logout as we get today. And it's all thanks to Shared Signals Framework, OpenID Connect, and System for Cross-Identity Management. So, cool. Thanks, everybody. Questions? David.
So right now, like the SSF, if it's integrated with your IDP, if you disable that account, will it just kick out?
Yes. You will be kicked out of that managed Apple ID.
Like on a Mac, on the iPhone?
Yes. Bye. Thanks for playing. It's been fun. So do managed Apple IDs require 2FA and SMS? They currently do.
Require SMS, and there's no OTP on that. So if you do that, then you can use the CPU.
You can, all of that authentication cycle that we just saw is the entire authentication cycle belongs to the IDP at that time. I could require a YubiKey, I could require, a PIN, I could require any kind of second factor that you could do at that point. Not to mention, it's all subject to your IDP's conditional access policies. So that if you're logging in from a place it doesn't recognize or that is prohibited specifically from being used, you can use your IDP as your smarts for that. That is a huge bonus for signing into company resources.
So existing IDs have phones connected to them would be replaced by...
Say a little louder.
The existing managed Apple IDs with phones connected to them would be replaced by...
They would be replaced by whatever kind of federated managed Apple ID or federated identity MFA security is present on the IDP in that case.
Regarding JumpCloud and federated, if you can, so JumpCloud and Azure can be connected. So
Correct.
You do have that. Can that not be used as a bridge federate from AVM to
Yes. So the question was, if Jump Cloud supports the concept of upstream and directory providers, and so that is one way that you could do this today. If you have an existing Google Workspace domain or an existing Azure AD domain, you could do the federation even if that's backed by another IDP. And so that was another pathway that you have. You can also easily change that. So that you can say, I'm done doing this in Azure, I want to do it in my IDP directly, because then it's subject to the IDP's MFA rules at that point. And yeah, you can do, we did set up testing for that for both Azure and Google Workspace. It's a couple extra bounces. This is smoother and easier, and it comes out in the right audit logs.
Another question. Do you know if managed Apple IDs or federated managed Apple IDs can use collaboration from using pages and numbers and all that?
So the question was, can a managed Apple ID use collaboration features that are contained within Apple's productivity work suite, like Keynote and Pages and things along those lines? I'm not going to speak off the cuff on that one. I believe the answer is yes. I mean, it's going to be put in your iCloud drive at that point, which is just iCloud, and you already have that. Yeah, well, I mean, you've got a 5 gig iCloud drive associated with your managed Apple ID.
Shitty iCloud.
But it's just 5 gigs, and you can't make it bigger. So if you fill it up, I'm really sorry.
So you mentioned in one of the earlier slides that you can do backups.
The mention was that we could do backups. Yes, you can use your managed Apple ID to back up company data. If you're doing it in COD mode, so which is to say corporate owned device. So it's a company phone that's signed into a managed Apple ID. You can do the iCloud backup against that managed Apple ID up to 5 gigs. Not beyond. And I was going to say.
It's not really, well, it's not related to managed Apple ID. You know how like if you're an admin of ABM, you're still like able to logo sign in, right?
Correct.
Right, and then
That will still be the case.
okay, so let's say you flip one of the users to staff or non-admin, then you would be switching that account out to manage Apple ID.
That is correct.
If you turn that user back to admin, does that turn back to local?
I haven't tested that. That's a really great question. I haven't looked at that.
Okay.
I
That's a weird question because I had this situation one time and I was a little bit hesitant to do it because like one of their account was like related to like developers account
Sure.
and you don't want to fuck it up.
Right.
Right, but I did it YOLO and then I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I was going to say I have not hammered on that particular piece of it. I will have by the time I do this talk again.
Okay.
So, cool. All right. Thank you, everybody. This has been a delight. I'd love feedback on this talk, whether or not it worked, and whether you found it valuable. So, thanks, everybody.
All right. Closing remark, Adam?
I don't have any. The only thing I'm going to ask is, we didn't use a mic because it was either use the sound system for the streaming or the sound system here. Did anyone have a problem? Does anyone, for future meetings, is that an issue? Sounds like people are good. No one wants to speak up. All right. I have nothing. We probably have a shit ton of pizza still.
Stickers?
So,
Mac Admins Foundation stickers?
yeah. Take both for your family at home.
Yes.
Pizza, stickers, all that fun stuff.
Yeah. And usually like after maybe a few of us will go out for drinks or something like that. So feel free to stick around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Add one more thing. We are always looking for great topics. So if there's something that the community would like us to bring somebody in or discuss a topic of interest, then kind of let us know. So it helps us build out our sessions as we go as well.
And we'd love to have the people here doing it, because we wanna learn from each other.
Like if they want to host it or
just talk. But yeah, also we're always looking for hosts. So if your company can do it, that is great. It is wonderful to thank you to CGI for hosting today. Thank you to Jamf and to Fleet for giving us food.
Oh, and if you still don't get what Slack is and all of that, just come out to me. I'll help you out.
And for the streamers, I'm going to go offline.
Bye, streamers.